everyone! So today we have another language variations, and this time we're going to be looking at the rooms of a house. So let's start off with one where we spend a lot of time. Now in British English we call these different things. So it could be the living room, it could be a sitting room, or it could be a lounge.
Yeah, in Hungarian it's not all that diverse, but we are a smaller country. We just say nappali, which means like day room. So you're there during the day.
I guess I think we also had that, but it's a bit more old-fashioned and we don't use it anymore.
So in French you'd say le salon.
That sounds very...
Yeah, it sounds a little
fancy.
bit fancy. Yeah, le salon.
Okay, next up
Saloon.
we have the kitchen. There's no explanation for that, it's just the kitchen.
We say konyha.
And in French it's sort of, I would say similar enough to English. Cuisine.
Oh.
Where you do you cuisine,
okay.
where you cook.
You cook the cuisine.
Yeah.
Okay, next, where I like to spend a lot of time, sleeping, the bedroom.
So we call this hálószoba, which means like the room where you sleep. But I mean, soba is the word for room. So a lot of people just like leave that off because it's quite obvious that you're referring to a room. So we just say háló.
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 It just sounds like you're saying hello.
But it also, that's interesting because háló on its own also means a net, like a fishing net. But I mean, from context,
You know what
you know what they
So
say.
it's either
Yeah,
bed
sleeping on a net.
or net.
Or a net.
Yeah. What you said about leaving sort of part of the word, that's quite interesting because it's, I guess, the same in French. So you can just say, but it's the other way around almost. So you can just say chambre,
Okay.
or you can say chambre à coucher, which is the place where you sleep, where you go to bed.
Okay.
But, which is also interesting because the verb coucher, I mean,
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
so coucher comes from sleep, go to bed, and it has also got other connotations. So
Got it.
where all of that happens basically. But you can just most of the time you just talk about your chambre, and it's obvious that
Your
you're talking
chamber.
about your chamber. But actually, originally, it just means room.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have, I need to look, the bathroom. And in England you often have bathrooms and separate toilets as well. So there's a difference.
Yeah. So a bathroom where you have like a bath and a sink and a toilet. So I don't think we have like a standard, like some houses have it together, some houses have it separately. You would call fürdőszoba, but again you leave soba, so fürdő, which is like a bath.
Yeah.
But you also can refer to like mostó, and I would say that as like a nice word to go to the toilet, for example, like if you're in a restaurant or something. But yeah.
So in French, you'd say la salle de bain, which is, so again, salle is another word for room. La salle de bain, so the room where you have the bath. But some people also call it la toilette. So toilette actually normally is toilet, right?
Yeah.
But because faire la toilette is to clean yourself. You could also, some people could also be referring to the room in that direction.
Next we have the dining room. So this is normally where you sit down to eat. And
Yeah, we do not have one on this.
Yeah, it's not.
You have to imagine.
Yeah, it's the room where you sit in, like there's normally a dining table and you eat there, but sometimes it's combined with the kitchen. But
with the living room.
yeah,
sometimes
so but sometimes it's a separate room entirely.
We call it ebédlő, which is like ebéd means lunch, so
So you can
the
only
place where you have
there.
lunch. Yeah, obviously. No breakfast, no dinner.
You can only lunch.
So for us in French we'd say la salle à manger, so the room where you eat, the room to eat.
Very specific, yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have study or office.
So this is different, I think, between generations. So when I was growing up, we always referred to this room as dolgozó, which is like a working room. But I think nowadays, with a lot of people doing home office, it's referred to as an office, which is iroda.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that is
But
interesting.
I think it's just like based on the A, the generation, B, the environment, I guess.
After the pandemic.
After the pandemic, yeah, vocabulary's changed.
So in French it hasn't changed, and I think that word's probably been around for quite a while. Yes. Which is le bureau, which both refers to the room and the desk.
Yeah, because we use the word for the desk. You can have a bureau.
And the Germans use it for office.
Yeah, exactly. So it has both meanings, and I would imagine this. I'm not sure how old this word is, but I think it's pretty old, and it didn't come along with or change with Corona.
Okay, so now we have the hallway. I don't think it's on this image, but the hallway is basically like a corridor which leads off to different rooms.
I don't really know if we have a word for that. Like if it's a corridor, like the word for corridor is folyosó, which refers to like, it comes from the same word as river, so that it like flows down.
That's quite nice.
But I think that's more used in like a block of flats where you go to the different flats, not inside a flat or inside like a house. I don't know if we have a word for that.
Because I think if it's like in a flat, it's more like, you know, like in schools you have corridors. And that would be the word that we would use there.
Yeah, that's why I'm having trouble thinking.
Actually, that's interesting. So in French, you'd say le couloir, referring to any space that means that then rooms are leading off it, and cool means to flow. So I never thought about that. Couloir.
Interesting.
Look at that.
But if you were talking about the corridors in a school, you talk about les couloirs. So you talk about it as being plural, I suppose, because it's more likely the building is bigger.
Yeah. And then, so like where you enter, I don't really know like if we like the entrance hall or if we just call it the hallway. I don't really know if we have a word for this, but I think you do in
We
French
do.
and Hungarian.
Yeah, so we call it előszoba, which means like a pre-room. So this is like the first point of entry into the house or the flat, and it's not a proper room in a sense, it's a pre-room.
But there's a word, so in French there's actually a specific word referring to when there is an enclosed space in between the front door and I'm trying to think what it's called. But when you actually enter, when you open the front door and you enter, regardless of whether there's a closed space for it or whether there is much space at all, but that little space when you walk in before you go into any other rooms is l'entrée. So even if you live in a studio and you don't actually have separate rooms, you'd still refer to that little,
Like the entry.
Like right by the door.
Yeah.
right at the door when you walk in and potentially take your jacket off and or your shoes off. It's l'entrée.
Okay, now on to another unclear thing. Like, we have landings. So when you go up the stairs, you have like a little bit of space before you go up the next set of stairs, and this is called a landing. and it's normally not very big. You can't really put much there, but we call it a landing.
I don't think we have a word for that.
In French we do have a word for it, and it is un palier.
Okay, now moving on to some things that you don't necessarily have in a house. That could be a utility room. So this could be where you have like washing machines or things. But in England, washing machines are often in the kitchen, and people don't have separate rooms for it. But if you do, then it would be a utility room.
I really love this word in Hungarian. We call it mosókonyha, which means like a washing kitchen.
Yeah. Like, yeah, we're washing
So it's
kitchen
like-
clothes.
Yeah, exactly. I quite like the word.
So in French you'd call it la buanderie. But as you said, it's it can happen that people have buanderies in their house, but you wouldn't have it mostly. I can't think, if you were living in a flat, you probably wouldn't have a buanderie.
But no,
No.
not in a
You'd
flat.
have-
None of that. And then another thing that you might not necessarily have is a conservatory, and this is normally like an extension to your house, and
Yeah, we don't have
like
one
with
here.
glass windows, and it's very light and airy.
Basically the same in French, you'd call it a conservatoire.
I don't know if that's the same thing I'm thinking of, because this isn't a very common thing to have in Hungary. I know that in the UK you have them like everywhere,
Yeah.
but I think this might be called télikert, which means like a winter garden.
Ah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
So that's where you bring the flowers in for the winter. But I don't think many people have that.
So I was going to say, yes, a winter garden, like it's kind of like
Because it's like, cause it's like a greenhouse,
sit
isn't
in.
it?
Yeah.
So these are the rooms in the house from English, Hungarian and French perspective.
What do we want?
More subscribers!
When do we want it?
Now!
How are we going to get it?
Click the subscribe button! And don't forget the bell!
That's right. And remember to share.